organizations or people, individuals in Germany, Western Europe, who are close to this organization are supported. I think there are many aspects why PKK and terror and all these topics are reported in a very certain way in German and also Western European media, which are also one-sided very often. One aspect is that from the Western part, we look at Turkey and all the things that are happening here with a very Orientalistic view. I do not know numbers or anything, but it may seem like we have a prevalency of more pro-Kurdish or pro-PKK, that sort of opinions in German and Western European media, and that also experts which are reproducing these opinions are concentrated a lot. It has become like something like a public opinion. That's the good opinion to have. Knowing that there are connections to human trafficking and abuse of maybe also children, or there are also reports, public reports in Germany by state officials about how children in northern Syria, for example, in that area, are taken by PKK, are kidnapped, and still organizations or people, individuals in Germany, Western Europe, who are close to this organization are supported. They are aware of the necessity of being objective and neutral, but the way that knowledge is gathered, that facts are gathered, is one-sided. I mean, we have a lot of Kurdish and Turkish people living in Germany, and they also work on these topics, but then once they work there, it happens a lot, not all the time of course, but it happens also a lot that a certain narrative is just copied and taken, because this person of course knows better than a normal German about the conflict, but also their knowledge may be one-sided. There's a tendency maybe to just say, we have this person who is from that cultural background, be it Turkish or Kurdish or whatever, that person knows. So we take that person as a reference, and then that's it, full stop. Well, I think there's always a very fine line between journalism and activism. And this line, we can see that in Germany, also Western Europe, that there's always the risk that it's getting abused from outside activists. And we can see that in some circles, journalistic circles, that there are people who are connected to, they say, Kurdish culture, houses or groups, which, however, spread PKK ideology and also propaganda, that they approach journalists a lot, and they talk to them about the situation of the Kurdish people as if it was an entity, a homogeneous entity, just one group, especially in Turkey, but also in northern Syria, northern Iraq. And they urge the journalists to report about this, and they tell them that they are also engaging in fighting for freedom, democracy, women's rights, workers' rights, and for a couple of years also they have added nature rights and the fight against climate change to the list. So this is something which falls on a very fruitful ground in Western European and German journalism for journalists, because they also, most of them see themselves as as people don't have to discover the criminal bad things, or have to fight for the good cause, whatever the good cause then is. And they know PKK, yes, is listed as a terror organization, but they still use the word Workers' Party for it. And the question, how does this relate? How does that go together? Is not being raised much. I think it's hard to say how much PKK, YPG, and so on are a concrete threat to Western public, because well, on one side, one may argue they're not violent in Germany or in Western Europe, at least not publicly. I mean, we don't know what's happening behind the scenes. But also within Germany, for example, you have the communities itself which are reportedly infiltrated by some PKK-affiliated people or sympathizers. So it's very hard to say who they are sometimes. It's very interesting that PKK is, of course, a word that is very well known in German and Western European media, but it's almost always accompanied with the word Workers' Party, which is their, or was their, official name some time ago. But still, it's called the Kurdish Workers' Party, and that leads to the assumption that it's maybe something like a democratic party, or fighting for or engaging for workers' rights or something, and that is perceived as something good. And then the attribute that it's also listed as a terror organization, it somehow gets lost between the lines, or is sometimes not even mentioned in reports. It's very difficult for a journalist in Western Europe and Germany to understand the structure of PKK or PKK-affiliated organizations and groups, because there are a lot of Kurdish groups in that area, and some of them are organized in cultural houses or groups. And if you look at their websites or speak to the people, it sounds all very nice. It sounds very peaceful, democratic, friendly. It's very hard to find out how, if any, they are connected to PKK. So if you look at the Verfassungsschutzberichte or at other reports from the German authorities, yes, there you can see. Or if you look at a case law, in court law, there you can see some names of organizations which have very innocent names, like Cultural House in a city or something, which are put into context with drugs or smuggling or mafia-like actions. Well, the question is always, how do you define responsibility of journalists and a journalist, especially with regards to the PKK, YPG conflict, also with Turkey. Yes, the media coverage usually portrays Turkey as the bad guy, and the Kurds in general as the good ones, but the Kurds are represented directly or indirectly in media coverage or connected to PKK. And there are a lot of question marks to this, because how can one party be only one party? How can only one party be good? How can only one party be bad in such a complex conflict? It's a very sensitive, very emotional topic, and you are always you can easily be a target from either side that will criticize you for a formulation, for just a sentence you wrote. And therefore, I can also imagine that it's safer for a lot of people in media in Western Europe and Germany to just go with the mainstream, because everyone writes that they are like this and this, so you just do it as well. And in order to be objective, you just also put the Turkish side there and say the Turks say this, and then you're good to go and you're safe. That means we have our German and Western European reality, of also our history, And we take that and looking from that perspective to a totally different reality in the country of Turkey and in the neighborhood, which is also, with the background of a very different history. And that means, for example, in Germany, we have very little experience with terrorism per se. Western Europe has been peaceful for almost 80 years now, and the last big war in Western Europe was the Second World War. So inside of, for example, Germany, when did the last PKK attack, like the big one, happen? They are very concerned, very keen on portraying a peaceful, stable, democratic image in Germany and Western Europe, and the Second and also the First World War, they're all connected to right movements, political right movements, nationalistic movements. So we have learned that these movements, the right side, is always connected to some kind of fascism, anti-democratic values and movements, and to war or bad things or terror or something like that. So on the other side, we see left movements. They have been the ones bringing democracy or fighting for democracy. They are fighting for women's rights, workers' rights, etc. So we see the left movements in a more liberal, in a better way, and we are more afraid of right movements. And with this approach, we look at Turkey, where the reality is different. It's almost vice versa, because Turkey has had a lot of experience with terror, and that terror comes mostly from radical left sides.